everyone, this is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy. Be sure to check out our Facebook group, our YouTube channel, and our newsletter, and our great sponsors, Abitativa Casa, Italy Rooting, and Phil Italy. And my guest today is Moreno Brusauro, and Moreno is from Italy. He's Italian, so I love having Italians on, and he has a great website to help us find our ancestors there. So welcome, Moreno. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Bob. Thank you very much for having me here today at your podcast. I'm really happy to be here.
So, what I enjoy about speaking to Italians, you know your history because probably everybody's right down the road, and you could, you don't have to research your ancestry like we do.
Yes.
But where's your family from originally, and where do you live now?
My family is from a little village near Venice, I would say between the two provinces of Padua and Venice. This small village is called Mellaredo di Pianiga. Maybe it comes from the Latin word Mellarius. Mellarius is a place basically where there are a lot of apple trees. Okay. And the name started from the name Mellaredo took its origins. We think most of us thinks about the fact that there was a lot of apple trees in Mellaredo, as I said. And yes, I live here. My surname is Brusauro. It's a really uncommon surname because we are only 12 families in Italy with this surname. There are some Brusauros, for example, in Argentina, because at the beginning of this century, they basically emigrated abroad, because this part of Italy where live, the northern part of Italy, was basically poor, and so a lot of people try to find more outside Europe. And what can I say? I'm 48 years old. I live here with my family. My wife is actually from Sicily because she was born in Gela, in the province of Caltanissetta. I am an IT project manager, so I'm keen on genealogy and also on technology. And I have two wonderful children, my son, Tommaso, and my daughter, Matilda.
Right. And so that's interesting about your son, because you named him Tommaso, but then you found out as you were doing your research that he had was it his great-grandfather was Tommaso, or second great-grandfather?
The second great-grandfather was Tommaso, and I found that by chance, I would say, because I was searching, I was trying to find out something more on my lineage, on my paternal lineage, in 2012, and my son was born in 2012, and in that record written in italic, it was a record about the Napoleonic period in Italy. And when I saw Tommaso, very little, I understand perfectly this is very little coincidence, but this surprised me a lot and fascinated me, and I started to build my lineage. And then during the years, I've helped also my friends, also my parents, to find out and to discover more about their origins. And this is the first thing that make me feeling passionate about genealogy.
Yeah, there's always something that kind of sparks us all, to get started. So because I've been doing a thing now, I'm going region by region and doing the origin of the names. And in the South, that I don't know as much now, but I think still a little bit. I know in my parents' era, it was almost law, I guess, that you had to name the children after the paternal grandfather and then the maternal grandmother and the paternal grandmother and all of that stuff. But I don't think in the North that was as prevalent. Am I right?
Sorry, I don't.
So let me try and explain it better. In the South, I guess the firstborn son was always named
Yeah,
after the grandfather, and
I
then
understand. Yes, it's the same. It's the same in Italy because when I went back to my paternal lineage, I saw that Angelo and Tommaso used to were the names that they used mostly.
okay, so yeah, so it was in the north too. My mother, and I've said this before a couple of times. My mother's uncle Dominic in English, but Domenico in Italian. He was the fifth son named Domenico. The four before him passed away, and they kept going till one survived.
Yes, 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 and it's quite the same in the north of Italy. Yes, I've seen a lot of other records with where the person I was searching for was called Tommaso. So this was the first time I saw, but I can confirm that it's absolutely the same.
One of the things that makes it easier for us is the fact that Italian women do not change their last name. In the
No,
States, if you're researching somebody,
I know.
it
Yes,
gets lost.
yes, yes. I know. Yes.
So that sparked you doing the research. But well, you said you're IT. I used to do IT for Chase. But what sparked you to create your website? And you could give us the name of the website too, if you like.
Yes, I've recently launched my website because it was in July 2025. I was on holiday with my family at the beach, but I would say it was a boring holiday for some reasons. And so I started to thinking about how I could connect my passion for technology with my passion for genealogy. So I thought that I could build a website where offering services to help foreign people, mostly Americans and Australians, to discover their roots in Italy. But as I said, Bob, I've also another permanent full-time job. So basically, I don't have a lot of time. I'm genealogist after 6 p.m., I would say, or during the weekends. And so what I thought was basically who could help me in this project, and the answer was the AI. So with AI, I made a sort of assistant because I don't use AI, for example, for translating records. I know there are a lot of people. I totally understand them that use AI, for example, to translate records. But I don't use AI to translate the records. I've also seen recently an episode of your podcast where a lady show during the episode how AI could translate and you can get the sense of the record. Okay, I I'm perfectly fine with this approach, but in my website I use AI as assistant. And so what I mean when I get a new contact, an AI agent send me on my mobile phone a message with a strategy, okay, to dealing with that request, and also help me with the email replies because as you can hear, my English it is not so perfect as I would. So this is very useful for me. But for example, when it comes to translation from the original record, I transcript it into Italian, okay, because I'd like my client feels what I call the human touch of the record, because there are a lot of old words that we don't use in our current Italian language anymore. But I like my client feels that type of words. Okay, so basically what I do is transcripting by hand. Okay, the records. And then the AI tool helps me to translate into English with a modern English that you can understand better.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn Italian, and I have to admit I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying. But to your point, the one thing that he keeps pounding into our head is passato remoto, which isn't used anymore.
There are a lot of verbs more than in English in Italian, so I understand that it's really difficult.
We'll be right back.
Experience Italy like never before, traveling with a scheduled group or create your own bespoke tour with friends with philitaly.co. Pack your bags and follow Phil. That's www.philitaly.co. Well, the toughest thing for I think for us is conjugating the verbs, and then the fact that you don't need to use the pronoun in front of the verb.
Yeah.
Because the verb kind of
Yes.
explains it.
Yes.
So that makes us crazy.
So we don't say we have, we simply say abbiamo.
Right. And then I mean English has them too, but our teacher will explain something and then they'll say, well, it's like this for every verb, but there are exceptions. Like this verb, for example, doesn't follow any of that. It just goes. I'm trying to think of one that comes to mind. Well, I guess yesterday, and it doesn't really. There's not a real set pattern to it, right? You just have to know it.
Yes.
But your English is great. Don't worry about your English.
Thank
It's
you.
fine.
Thank
Much
you.
better than my Italian, which is.
Thank you very much.
If I could.
No, and so basically, I was on holiday, and then in a week, I have launched my website, and then after a couple of weeks, without any advu or making anything to promote my site, I got my first contact, and from a contact it became a client, and so basically we are here, and I'm helping foreign people to also to dealing with the Italian bureaucracy, because as I used to say, bureaucracy is one of my service line, because I see a lot of Americans or Australians that are stuck only because they cannot get a record from the comune, for example. And this is crazy. This is crazy because really a lot of people cannot continue their research because they need a record. And sometimes the first record, the recent record, is the most difficult to get, because all the records you can get them, for example, or on Antenati portal or on Family Search. But if you are searching for quite a recent record, for example, 1920, 1925, you need to ask to the comune to get that record. And so, as I said, Italian bureaucracy helps me in my own.
Yeah. So does the website, does it, like if let's say I put my grandmother's name in there from Torito, does it then go out and search for those records, all the records on the Antenati or any place else that her name may pop up?
Yes, I have also a backend system where basically, as I said, I get a message on my phone, and the AI tool suggested me a strategy. Okay, what I'm also developing is I'm trying to, for example, search on familysearch.com website in order to understand there are that record, okay, or the availability for that comune. I'm working with them. I'm developing this backend system, but it's still on progress, I would say.
Oh no, that's great. That's great. One of the things that and some people are very, very lucky, and others like myself aren't so lucky. because the priests don't always cooperate, is the church records. Because we could go back to 1809 or 1806, whatever it is, on the Antonati, and find it on Family Search. But the church records, that's a real challenge for us.
You are perfectly right, Bob. I would like to tell you a story about a client of mine, an Australian lady called Patrizia, and I went to the parish archive in Aviano. Aviano is in Friuli Venezia Giulia. Friuli Venezia Giulia is a region near Veneto, because I'm based in Veneto. We were lucky because in the archive I found a lot of records that were moved from the parish, from the church, to the archive. But if you have to go to the church talking with the priest, it's very hard. It's very hard. I know, because I had the same problems with my lineage when I had to go to my parish, to the church where my ancestors were born. And the first time the priest said me that all were destroyed, and it wasn't true. It wasn't true. I asked the archive, and they said me that it wasn't true. So I asked the priest again, and then I went there, and I found what I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. My mother's family, like I said, is from Torito, a very small place with one church, basically one major church. And I have, some friends there, and one of them is well known. He was the chief of police, and he said Don Nicola won't let us in. He won't let me in. He won't let me look at the records. And I told him, I said, because there's a lot of people from that town. I said, we'll pay. I said, we'll contribute to the church. He's just got, and he doesn't do it. And then there's, I've talked to other people where the priest will tell him, I can't stay with you, but go in the room and there's all the books. It's just, you have to be lucky.
Yes, you have to be lucky. I know they are very busy. I know for sure. But I don't know why they don't want to cooperate with you when it comes to look at the registers and find what you are looking for.
And I tell, people say, well, they're going to go to the comune in their hometown. And I tell them, make sure you find out when they're open. I says, because a lot of these towns, it's open from Tuesdays from 11 to 2, and that's it.
Yes, and to avoid this, I have a strategy that helps a lot of people to get in record from the comune. And this strategy, I have also written an interesting, I hope, article on my blog about PIC email, PEC email. What are PEC email? PEC email are only in Italy, and that certified email you can send to the town hall, for example, and they must to respond to you when you send to them a
Really?
PIC. Yes. If you look at
Wow.
yes, and this is a way I use to help my clients. For example, an hour ago, I just received a reply from a comune, the comune of Sant'Agata Fossili in Piemonte, and the lady who asked me for these two records about her ancestors, I think she was trying for 2 years to get those records. He sent them a lot of emails. I sent only one email, a PIC email.
Wow.
Yes, I can. Yes, there is an article I've written, but there is a problem. Only if you have an Italian tax ID, you can get a PIC email address. I have one, okay, and I use this to help people. For example, if you want to get the Italian citizenship jure by sanguinis, I mean, okay, and you need the records, okay, you can send them a PIC email, and basically they have to respond to you. It takes
Oh,
time.
wow. Yeah.
It
My son and I both applied for the ID. He got it no problem, and I didn't get it. And they gave me such a hard time. I mean, I want to get the citizenship. I want to mainly get it for the kids, but they're not eligible anymore. So I don't know if I'll continue or not. But my
mm.
son does have a tax. He does have the tax ID, so I could use his tax ID.
Yeah, yes, you could use that tax ID, codice fiscale, I mean, okay?
Mhm.
I think, okay. And with the codice fiscale, you can open, okay, an address, a PIC address, and then you can use for sure.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I had never heard of that, and I'm sure most other people. So anybody who's struggling with that, if they go onto your website and let you know, then you'll be able to get
Yes,
those records.
yes. Simply submitting a request through my contact form on the website, and then the AI tool get the request sent to me, and then in 2 or 3 business days, I send them a reply. I usually offer a free preliminary assessment. Okay, basically, or a video call, or simply we send email and reply about, and I let them know what realistically we can get.
Yeah, and doing this for quite some time now, and I haven't been able to hone in on it. But for example, my Piramalo and Quattro families, right? I'm sure there's a lot of documents out there
Yeah.
because of their stature and everything, but I can't find them. I Google and I do this and I do that. So again, something similar to that. If somebody thinks that their family may have owned land, something like that, or if they come through you, you would be able to search for some of that stuff too.
Yes, I can because, for example, another place where there are a lot of documents are state archives. Every province in Italy has a state archives where there are a lot of documents. And again, I usually send them an email, okay, and asking them for a research, for a remote research, okay. And I got a lot of documents. It takes time, not so much, because I think that in a month you get a response from them, always using PIC email, as I said.
Mhm.
But it's absolutely useful. I live in the northern part of Italy, but I'm helping a lot of people that are looking for records in the south region, Benevento, Catania, Napoli. And what I basically do is sending emails to the commune, to the state archives, because another barrier is the language. If you talk Italian, you can follow up them by phone. You don't know how many phone calls I made with the commune clerks, or with the clerks at the state archives or the parish archives, and so on. So as I said, the Italian bureaucracy is one of my business lines.
That must be a real challenge from what I understand. One of the people I interviewed, they went there for a year, and his wife had to get some document to live there. They had to go to the comune or the post office. I don't remember which one it was, but she had to get something. There were 2 windows, and they went to the first window, and the man said, "No, I can't help you." So they went to the other window, and then they got what they
I
needed.
see. I perfectly see. I perfectly see. Yeah.
So this is real interesting because, just as an example, I know that um try to say it the right way, but my ancestors, Capece Piccicelli,
Hmm.
they bought the fiefdom of Capricotta from the Falcone family. So
Hmm.
somewhere there's
Hmm.
probably a record of that transaction, right?
Yes. Yes. I think that transaction could be in the state archive, because when you exchange stuff like that, how can I say in English? But basically, those.
We would call it a deed if it was on a house, but they bought the whole town.
Yes, but I think that in the state archive you could find that kind of record. It could be.
Yeah, that would be interesting because I know, and especially I know the Crotchlow family, they had transactions. We got to go to the state archive in Naples, and they showed us the oldest document from that family, which was from I think around 1150 or something. It was all in Latin. It was written in Latin back then. But they have archival of the well, they have the family coat of arms, and then they had up until I guess the late 1800s or something like that. They had the family trees all handwritten, all in these volumes. I mean, it's really beautiful stuff, you know.
Yes, I know.
And yeah, that was really an interesting visit. And it's for people who don't know it, the State Archives of Naples now is in an old Benedictine monastery.
Really?
Yeah, it was really cool, and they had a courtyard, and when you were in the center of this courtyard, there's a I think it's an oak tree, about 1,000 years old,
Very beautiful.
and when you're in this courtyard, you don't hear any sound from the outside world.
Wonderful. Amazing.
It was really, and you're in the old city of Naples, right by the Duomo and all of that kind of stuff. It was really pretty neat. And so I want to ask you a little bit about your family. Back to that again, just for a minute. How far back have you traced your family?
I've not finished my research because I've stopped in a parish in a village near here. But I need to check. But maybe 1765 last ancestors, and to get back, I need to again to go to the church and try to find on that record, but it's very time consuming, and so I've stopped for now.
Yeah, I know. You have to every once in a while. You have to stop. I mean, my mom's family. I was able to get back to about 1750 through the Antonati, and surprisingly enough, Torito, this small little town in Puglia, they must have been one of the first to that they photographed the records, because I'm going back 10 years now when I was researching that, and everything was there, as opposed to my dad's family in Naples, which there's millions and millions of records. Who knows how many records there are, and they haven't all been indexed yet, and everything like that. My paternal grandmother was easy in that both families, luckily, are in the Libradoro. So I was able to trace them all the way back Caracciolo back to 950. And because it's all online and they have it's all documented. And certainly some interesting characters in those lines for sure. But I'll tell you a funny story. When we were in Massa di Soma, which is where they had one of the houses, Pio Malo had one of the houses, and they took me into the courtyard. It's, everything now is either apartment buildings, flats, or whatever. And they said, look at that second story. Do you see the window with the balcony? I said, yeah. And they said, well, your third great grandfather, Count Giacomo, on his birthday, he would roast a pig and serve it to the people, and serve them wine and get everybody drunk. And then he would throw coins out the window and watch them die for the coins. I was like, well, that's a bit of history that I didn't really want to know about. But apparently, apparently he was a pretty decent guy, but I guess maybe that was his sport on his birthday or something like that. I don't know, but it was interesting to get that kind of thing. And one of the things, and you may find this true too by some of the people you talk to, um, even if your family were just regular people, or they may have had some kind of um, skill, or they may have been an artist, or they may have been a stoneworker or something like that. When you find that out, you kind of realize that you have some of the traits from these people.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I interviewed one person, and she said, we think you pick up the physical characteristics. She said, but you don't realize you pick up the mental characteristics too.
Also, yes. I also see
Oh,
a video on YouTube where basically they say that you are really similar to an ancestors of you. I don't remember the name.
well, yes, Prince Moreno in
Yes,
Avellino.
yes, and I saw both the picture and of you and about him, and yes, it's absolutely true.
It was funny because my wife would tell me right away if I didn't know what I was talking about. And I found that picture, and I showed it to her, and I said, look at this. Look at this. This is my, what is he? My ninth great grandfather.
Not,
And she said, oh my God, it's not an exact resemblance, but there's a couple of things like the eyebrows and kind of the eyes a little bit. And when I found it, I'm guessing, because he died young, I'm guessing in that photo, he was maybe somewhere between 27 and 32, something like that. And I had a picture of myself at 27, but I was looking the other way. So I made it black and white, and I turned it facing the same way he was facing, and it was like, my goodness, this is crazy.
yeah.
But we lived in England for 2 years, and we used to go to all of these manor houses where the nobility lived, and you would see the paintings on the wall for like 400 years. The only thing that changed was the clothes. The faces were the same.
Yes. My origins are totally different from you because my origins are about poor. So we are basically farmers, poor farmers. So I don't have any way to look at these details. But what you are saying is really interesting.
Well, and that's my mother's family. My mother's family were farmers from Torito. My parents, if they had lived in Italy, never would have met, and if they did, their stations would have been so far apart, but in America. And the interesting thing about my father's family is my grandmother and her aunt were the only two that came to America from that family. Everybody
Ah,
else is still in Italy.
okay.
Nobody ever talked about it. I had no idea that I had tons and tons of cousins in Italy,
In Italy.
and even my dad's first cousins are still alive. Nobody ever talked about it. I had no idea. And I think that's true with a lot of people, Like I tell people, you have to go to the hometown if you visit Italy. And they say, well, I don't know anybody there. I said, it doesn't matter. You have to go.
Yes. Yes. You have to go. Yes. I totally agree.
And that's, in all the trips to Italy, that's always the highlight for me, going to the hometown, because I think you feel connected. And I really believe, and you probably do also, that some of us are chosen to do this because the ancestors want to be found.
Yeah. And there are a lot of clients of mine that asking me about, for example, the address, the residence address of their ancestors. For example, I'm working in these days on a research for a US guy, and their ancestors were from Moschiano in Avellino, and he told me if I can get the address, the street where they lived, because he wants to go in front of I don't know that address. And I saw that a lot of Americans would like to go and see where really they come from in terms of address, street, and number of the street, and so on. I think we get an address because I found a record where there is a street, and there is a street. This street seems not to be existing now in Moschiano, but I think it was replaced with another one, and I told him that I will ask the commune in order to understand if simply they changed the name. I suspect that they simply changed the name of this street, and so I can get more information about that.
Yeah, that's probably the case. Yeah, I visited my mother's where my mother's was born here, but where her parents lived in Torito. You know, it was very modest. They actually owned the house, which is pretty good, but it was 2 rooms. And my cousin, who actually lived there, she came when she was 20, and she said there were 2 rooms. One was the bedroom for her mother and father and the baby, and the other room was for everything else. And she said, and there was always a baby. But, you know, it's, I think for me, it's important. And I think a lot of Americans feel the same way that, and I don't know if every other nationality feels like this. I think some do, but it's important to us to know where we came from. It's as simple as that, I guess, you know?
Yes, yes,
You guys are lucky. You know where you come from.
yes, we know. But you are absolutely right. Americans love to discover where they came from, and also Australians, because there are a lot of Australian people that ask me for the same things. I really like to help them because I feel that they really want to connect with their past, simply. And
Yeah. Yeah. So before we go, what's the name of the website again?
ItalianRootsFinder.com. And if people want to visit my site, I really appreciate it. And if they want me to help them, I'm absolutely at your disposal.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, I'll put all the links out there and everything. Well, thanks again, Moreno. I really appreciate you taking the time. It was a great conversation.
Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you very much for the opportunity.